Okay, I'll talk a little about my career. I started my working career in 1991 in actually the banking sector. Wherever you are in the world, there are a few things which I found in common. For instance, all the thinking individuals do seem to be trying to strike a balance. So a thinking individual is trying to strike a balance between, between work and life, between arts and science, between religion and reason. And we are all trying to strike a balance for us, and we have a viewpoint in terms of the society we live in terms of stuff and environment, and capitalism, socialism. Now, if I look at it, one thing which I learned was that what we often don't analyze, and we look at these two things quite differently, is actually about work and hobbies, which is actually at each individual looks at these as two different things. And we do try to strike a balance. This word hobby, we see work and hobbies as separate, but in English, this word hobby actually comes from this toy. Yeah, so the real difference between, if you look at it, this is about a 250-year-old word, which has come into English, from Hobbes' horse, which means a child's toy. And the difference between work and a hobby is that an activity which doesn't go anywhere. So an activity which results in economic benefit is work, but an activity which does not go anywhere is a hobby. So if you look at it, another way to look on it is that if you have started benefiting from your hobby, it's actually already become work because you are benefiting from it in some way. And so what I found is that diversity of jobs and diversity of hobbies needs to go together. And this is something which, in terms of diversity of jobs and diversity of hobbies, the linking thing is to see your hobbies as something which, I'll introduce another word, as serendipity. Now, serendipity is a word which is increasingly getting popular in the English language. It's a wonderful word that when you are searching for something, and quite by accident you discover something else, which is also very nice, and you benefit from it. So the word itself actually comes from the time when the traders and the English ships used to come looking for India from the African coast side, and they would actually come to this island of Sri Lanka before they would actually see Sri Lanka before they came to India. So the discovery of the island of Sri Lanka, which was accidental, while looking for India, is the reason why this word serendipity came in. Actually, in Sanskrit, Swarandweep means golden island. So it comes from the word golden island, that you accidentally discovered Sri Lanka while looking for India, while coming to India. So why I'm putting this up is that I find that hobbies are actually the serendipity at work. And it's a very good idea to have multiple hobbies. And, just like in today's world where specialization is the order of the day, you find that a lot of people are spending time more and more on their, becoming specialists. And the generalist is losing its value in a highly organized society like the European societies, which are very literate, like the Czech society, which is very literate. But when I look at it this way, hobbies and diversity of hobbies and diversity of work is a very good idea for a highly organized society like this. It's also very nice to travel to cities where there are multiple occupations. But if you go to a city which has a single occupation, or say 90% of the people, there are towns which we've all heard of. There are towns in the world which are just manufacturing. 90% of the people work in a factory environment making cars. They tend to be very boring. So as a tourist, if you end up going to a town where it's a single profession, it does tend to be boring. But when you look at it from the point of view of countries, is it a good idea to have countries with lots of different types of occupations? And this is where I think the point I'm trying to make is that a worldview where we say China as manufacturing, India as software development is a very limiting view. Okay? And there are pros and cons of this when we look at it at a country level. Diversity of jobs is a very good idea when it comes to individuals in an organized society. But when you look at societies like ours in India, today it is just the reverse of say, Czech Republic. There, I'm increasingly of the opinion that we need to make specialists to organize our societies, right? So in the context of an organized society like Czech Republic, increasingly generalists are something which could be a positive trend. And in the case of India, where we have a large number of uneducated people as of today, or not formal education, so I think it's a good idea to create specialists. Now, this particular point is something which bothered me quite a lot. And in 2010, I relocated back, and I came out of my job to take on another project where I'm trying to link, and I had this idea that we should do something with the social cause attached to it, and I needed to understand India better. So for about a year, I actually researched what are the jobs in India. And if you look at it, it's quite revealing. I mean, you know that India is a country of 1.2 billion. There's a big fallacy in looking at India as a software or outsourcing country, because out of 1.2 billion people, we have about 500 million people who are of working age, 550 million. And out of this 550 million, only 34 million Indians have a structured payroll job. Okay, that means that they know they have a salary contract. Only 34 million. We're largely an agriculture and an unorganized labor environment. Out of the 34 million, only 12 million are jobs which are in the private sector. The balance 22 million are actually in the state government or Indian government, central government jobs. So we have only 12 million jobs in a country of 1.2 billion, which have been created by the private sector. And of this, 2.1 million are the jobs which have been created by the IT and BPO sector. So there's a big fallacy on looking at India as a country which is largely services-driven, and it's something which only impacts a very small percentage of our country, right? So then the question is, if the 34 million people are doing this, the more I researched, the government data that I got outside of the agriculture sector and outside of the dairy farm sector, there is something called rural non-farm sector. And I tried to study this, and I found that according to government data, there are 27 million people who work in handicrafts and about 34 million in textile. And these jobs are very unstructured jobs. So I took on a project which was to actually focus on handicrafts. Okay? Now, this is quite a big change from the kind of work that I was doing to come to handicrafts. And I found I had to first rationalize with myself over the last 1 year that can I move from banking to outsourcing to now making handicrafts just because it's something which is required. And again, I found this word technology helped me. The word technology, it's a word which has its roots in a Sanskrit word called takshan. So at the time that Greece and India were collaborating, this word moved from Sanskrit towards coming to the Greek language as techno. Yeah, and then it has flown into English language. And I found that actually it means, in Old Sanskrit, it means craftsman. So here you are. Between crafts and technology, in reality, there is some bit of a linkage. Yeah? And the linkage is an evolution over time. So what I did was, we've created a small project which we're calling Indo-Europeans. Over the last 1 year, basically, I don't know how to qualify it as a business or as a hobby, so let's just call it a project. We tell a story with stuff. We make stuff in the village, and we sell stuff in the city. Okay? The primary reason why we are getting into this project is to create jobs in rural India to sustain those handicraft jobs. And at this point, we are actually making home interior products which, with a design intervention. And there are about 150 women in about 5 villages in India who are actually designing products which we intend to actually showcase and bring to Czech Republic. I don't know, we've already spent about 1 year of time on it. Maybe 1 year from now we should be ready, and we will bring some stuff with it. But here I found that this project is very fulfilling because it does touch all those points that I was trying to address. I do have the opportunity to make different products, and I do have an opportunity to do something which was beneficial. Here I am actually. So jack of all trades, you've probably heard of this term in English. Jack of all trades, master of none. This translates in Czech, you know of this. 9 crafts, 10th comes misery. Yeah? And there are a number of other, but this is actually quite, most of these, almost about 40 languages I saw on Wikipedia have something which has a negative connotation to doing multiple things. And this is again, partly to do with industrialization, partly to do with the trends in society today, because even the original phrase in English, it just may have been that jack of all trades, master of one, certainly better than a master of none. As I see it in our role, what I'm trying to do is just, set up the process. There are lots of craftsmen who are the real masters, and showcase and connect the world. And in connecting and bringing it here, the focus is on the story. The stories are what we are trying to bring with the products. And the point is that the more rural India and its stories come to urban Europe, the desire is that more than profit, there will be a bilateral understanding which is beneficial. There will also be some job creation in a part of the world which needs it. And bringing these things together is something which is, I would call it, it's an abstract thought, but we have now constructed a project around it. There is funding which we have arranged for it. And the profits are going into community development work. I'll leave you with this thought that respect for diversity, a belief in unity, which is what our Indo-European projects is about, regardless of the language. We've called ourselves Indo-Europeans largely on these languages which have a lot of stories in common. And if you look at it, there are beautiful words, even outside of the Indo-European languages. Mandarin, which is not an Indo-European language, has yin-yang. Arabic, which is zikr and fikr. Sanskrit, which is jnana and prana. And Greek, which is gnosis and practice. And the hope is that as the stories come, some will get lost in translation, some will improve our understanding, but between the two extremities, there will be a middle path and a common ground. Thank you very much.